wrote some of the most elegant prose in the history of language, but it was never published. They poured out their hearts with pen and paper, but you won't recognize their names. They were the soldiers of the Civil War, and their legacies can be found in their letters back home.
The collection numbers about 8,000 items. The letters that we have in the collection are extremely important. The American Civil War was the first war in which Americans participated, where you had a large portion of the population that was literate and writing home and giving an on-the-scenes report of what was happening on the battlefield. This museum brings you into the Civil War, I think, through the immediacy of the letters. You get a letter from a soldier who was writing from the battlefield, and you're there. You're hearing his discussion, his letter home to his family, saying, this is what happened, this is what I saw, this is what I felt.
Julie Holcomb is an archivist for the Pearce Civil War Museum, and her team has read hundreds of these letters, pages and pages of intimate writings from soldiers fighting at battles most of us only know from the history books.
I think it's a unique museum in that instead of historians telling the story of the Civil War, we have the participants of the Civil War actually telling us the story. It's important that we show original documents and artifacts here because there's an immediacy to original documents and artifacts that you just don't get with reproductions. You can talk to a fifth grader about slavery and what slavery meant in American history, but it's not the same as putting their hands on a pair of shackles that were worn by a slave.
I think it's a tremendous opportunity to educate people because particularly our younger people, and we have a lot of school children and groups that come through, really don't know a lot about the Civil War and the importance to our country and the history and significance and impact that it did have on our nation. Over here we have a display that talks about the role of Texas in the Civil War.
History lives in these letters and uniforms, and together with the interactive exhibits, you will find yourself in the middle of the war that pitted Americans against one another.
You can talk about the Battle of, say, First Bull Run, but it's not the same thing as a soldier writing home saying, I could have walked for a quarter to a half mile on the bodies of, dead soldiers. The emotional impact of that is just tremendous. We've had people in tears over things that they've read, or they start out in 1861 reading letters from a soldier, and by the time they get to 1864, that soldier has disappeared from the exhibit, and they want to know why, and you say, well, he was killed in battle.
The Civil War is an old wound now, but the soldiers of the blue and the gray are still telling their story. Letter by letter, they reflect on the division of a nation, offering future generations a glimpse at the past and a grim lesson on the price of unity.
I believe it's very important that this story continue to be told. The Civil War was a defining moment in American history. Prior to the Civil War, the common phrase was the United States are, and after the Civil War it was the United States is. Instead of being a confederation of states, we became a nation through the process of the Civil War. I'm a firm believer in the old adage that if you don't remember the past, you're doomed to repeat the past. We need to remember our history. It's very important. We need to know where we came from to help us know where we're going.
Thanks for hopping in and traveling with us. Now click the subscribe button for more videos like the one you just saw.